What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about foundations you can have with women. These can be certain tendencies or predispositions that influence your behavior with women. These are things that are going to directly impact how women perceive you, how you interact with them, and ultimately the success of your dating life in the future. So a lot of these things you're going to find that they're formed in childhood, or like when you go to middle school, high school. These are things that sort of seep into your brain and they kind of carry forward into your life. So we have to be able to identify them so that you can change these things, because this is a proactive tier list, right? This isn't just me telling you, yeah, bro, it's over. I know in the bottom two tiers we have like it's over and it never began, but really if you change these things and you're aware of them, you're going to be all right. That's why I'm not going to be including things like looks or height into this, because we all know that it's not a good foundation if you're short and you're ugly. But at the same time, it's like if I tell you that, you're just going to be like, oh shit, it's over for me. So this is a constructive tier list. So basically I'm going to be ranking these things from terrible foundation at the bottom all the way up to Great Wall of China foundation, which means this is the recipe that 99% of guys who turn out to be chick magnets have in one way or another. Also, in the last two videos, I told you guys to DM me on Instagram if you wanted to contact me one-on-one, and I did not expect the number of, like, I'm getting like hundreds of DMs a day. So now I know what it feels like to be a mid chick, and I'm gonna try my best to reply to you guys as fast as I can. I'm gonna try my best to get back to every single one of you, but please give me some time because I'm getting way too many. If I actually took time to reply to every single DM, I would have to do nothing else for the entire day. So now I have some sympathy for these 5 out of 10 chicks, because this must be how many DMs they're getting from guys. So just to put it into perspective, a YouTube channel with like 25k subs is probably getting the same amount of male attention as a fucking mid chick who decided to create a Tinder account. But anyways, let's get into the tier list. So the first thing we have here is staying home all day. So these are the guys who tend to not really leave their bubble too much. They're always kind of home all day. They don't leave their house unless they absolutely have to, unless it's like for school or for work, and then they go right back home. So many guys live this routine where they're kind of like at home and the only time they leave is for work or gym. The problem with doing this is that you are rejecting yourself, because a lot of you guys, I promise you, a lot of you guys are actually good looking. You just need to step outside your house and start interacting with people, because I don't care how much of a Chad you are, if you don't leave your house, you're not giving women a chance to like even look at you. So you are self-rejecting, you're auto-rejecting yourself when you decide to stay home and not interact with the world. So some of you guys aren't even ugly and it's not over for you. You literally just need to say, I'm turning my phone off, I'm closing the laptop, let me step outside, let me talk to the cashier, let me go approach some chicks on campus. And I personally relate to the struggle a lot of staying home all day, because naturally I grew up loving the house, dude. I stayed home a lot growing up, watching YouTube videos, reading books, and kind of staying in my own bubble is like my comfort zone. I hate leaving it. In fact, if I could Uber Eats chicks, I would never ever leave my house. You know, I get it, some of us like to be by ourselves, some of us don't really like to go out that much, but you have to do it if you want to improve your dating life. So staying home all day, unfortunately, it's a very terrible foundation. You have to change this. Usually this starts young. So if you're a guy who's like not used to going out that much, you'll find that you tend to stay home even when you're older. So this is something that you have to be consciously aware of and consciously make the decision every day to fight the impulse to stay home and shell up and go outside and actually, you know, experience life. Next, we have being socially isolated. So this is not quite the same as staying home all day, because some guys still go out. They still have stuff to do. They still, you know, work and they see people. It's just that they don't really have like a community and they don't really have a social circle. These guys kind of do everything by themselves, and usually 99% of the time it's these people who really only have cold approaching to resort to when it comes to meeting women or online dating, because they're not going to meet women through friends or mutuals like I discussed in my past videos. They can't do that because they don't have the option to. The problem with being socially isolated is that no matter how good looking or tall you are, it's hard to meet chicks. Like, it's hard to meet the right girl who wants you. And I get it, you know, I really do. The world in the West is much more isolated than it is anywhere else. Most people are walking by themselves, they're commuting by themselves, they're kind of in their own bubble. How many people do you see in public wearing AirPods looking at the ground walking? Like, we live in a pretty antisocial culture, so I get that it's hard to kind of have a community and like friend groups and people that you see regularly. But you know, if you're in university right now, or if you're in like social hubs, this is your chance to do it. The reason I'm not going to try to give any practical advice is because everyone's life situation is different. If you're way past university life and you're working at like a factory, then the only people you really have to socialize with are your coworkers. Some of you guys DM me and you're like, yo, I live in a small town, I don't like the people here. Your only option is to really leave. So everybody has a different situation, but try to position yourself as much as you possibly can in a place where you're always talking to people, you have regular people that you see. That's really important. And then these people are eventually going to turn into your friends. They're going to invite you to go do stuff with them. And then when it rains, it pours, guys. All you need is one person to really get the ball rolling. Like, most of the people that I met were through one friend. It's just a domino effect from there. It's really all about momentum when it comes to making friends. And the most dangerous mindset you can have is that, oh, well, I don't really need male friends. I could just cold approach and get women that way. First of all, brotherhood as a man is so important, way more important than you going out and talking to a couple chicks. You need brothers, you need friends, okay? Some of you guys cope so hard when you say, yeah, dude, I don't really need friends. I'm a lone wolf. No one's a lone wolf. Humans are not made to be lone wolves. There is peer-reviewed studies that show that your happiness decreases tremendously as a man when you don't have a community of other men and brothers sort of doing stuff with you. So this is also a pretty terrible foundation, guys. Try to avoid these two as much as you can. Next, we have the opposite of this one, which is having a big social circle, you know, having a lot of friends, a lot of girls in the social circle. You're always kind of meeting new people through this circle, but you guys are kind of one fixed group. I'm not gonna lie, dude, I really have to put this at the top of the list here, Great Wall of China Foundation, because you never see guys who are in this situation ever cold approaching. Why? Because they don't really need to. Like, they have their social life so fulfilled and it's really just coming to them. Like, they're kind of attracting it. They don't really have to do anything. And the women that they meet are going to be much more receptive to them, because women are much more open to guys, even if they're not as good looking, if they know them, right? Women's standards are extremely high on dating apps because they don't know who the guys are. And when you're a stranger to a woman, if you're not in like the top 20% of guys, you're practically invisible. How do you shift the leverage to your position? You enable these women to know you. Am I saying that you have to have a girlfriends and stuff? Not necessarily. You just have to be around a bunch of girls and they kind of have to see you every once in a while. And when a woman feels familiar with a guy, this is really when he has the best chance. So the guys with big social circles, first of all, not only are they better at talking to women because they have the social experience, they're not like awkward, they can hold a conversation, they know how to seduce chicks, they also have better social lives. And the guy who cold approaches, he has to rely on going out in the street and, you know, trying to create chemistry with a girl, even though there might not be anything in common between them. I'm not trying to bash cold approaching, of course. I know that some people can't be in this situation. So cold approaching is your next best option. But if you have something like this, really don't take it for granted. The older you get in life, the harder it's going to be to have a dynamic like this. So the younger you are, the faster you have to create a social circle and establish it so that you have a baseline and a foundation. And I'm not saying be friends with guys so you can meet girls or whatever. Like, you actually have to like these guys. These are guys that you do stuff with, that you share interests with, passions with, etc. So, all right, next up we have the party animal. So this is also going at the top of the list for obvious reasons. I'm not saying that you have to change who you are. Like, if you don't like to party, don't party. But the facts don't really care about what you like. The guys who party often, the guys who go out on weekend and they're a bit degenerate and they're drinking, are always going to get more women short term, keywords here, short term, than the guy, you know, on self-improvement who kind of stays home all day. He goes to the gym, he meditates, but he doesn't really go out. These guys are always going to outdo you, bro, even if they're less attractive and even if they're not as tall, because they're more socially calibrated. They're always around women 24/7, even though they're, you know, low quality drunk women. We're talking about the best foundations for women, not for the right woman, okay? So keep that in mind. I've seen way too many absolute normies. Like, these guys are literally 6 out of 10s, 5 out of 10s looks, but they still outdo the 7 out of 10 guy who stays home all day because they're just out, bro. They don't give a fuck. They're out and about. They're drinking. They're socializing. But again, if this is not your vibe, you don't have to do it. I'm just ranking it objectively based on, does this get you a lot of girls and is it a good foundation to have? And don't cope by saying like, oh, but I'm looking for the one, so I don't mind being by myself until I find her. I don't need a social circle. The one isn't going to spawn in your house, right? You still have to go out to meet her. Like, the things that you have to do to attract low quality women, most of the time are the exact same things that you have to do to get the high quality women. Next up, we have growing up watching Disney Channel, right? So am I the only one who grew up watching shit like, you know, Austin and Ally, fucking Jesse and all these other shows? And we watched these blue pill movies like The Notebook and stuff where the love story is just so unrealistic. Twilight as well is another good example. The love story is so unrealistic and so not reflective of reality that we start to get these illusions and these blue pill ideas in our head, like, oh, maybe if I act exactly like the protagonist did, I will get the exact same results as him. You absolutely won't, and I want you to really internalize the fact that you won't, because either you're gonna learn from me or you're gonna learn the hard way. Overall, this Disney stuff has turned men to like these weak, soft, basically women. Like, I'm sorry, bro, but it's just turned this generation so soft. And you know, I'm not trying to get into conspiracies or anything, but some people say this was done on purpose and this is no accident. So anyways, if you grew up watching Disney, it's not even that bad, but you have to undo the programming. Like, you have to be very conscious of how this affected your perception of women. And if you view them as these like transcendental beings who could do no harm and they could not lie and believe all women because, you know, they're angelic and they're so pure, you're in for a very rude awakening, okay? You have to see them as human beings who are capable of manipulation and who are capable of, you know, controlling you emotionally if you don't play your cards right. Next up, computer science majors. So yeah, now we're starting to get into the stereotyping territory. You know, this is gonna offend a lot of people. I actually started off as a computer science major, and then my partner and I cheated on an assignment, and then I didn't make the cutoff grade, so I had to move over to math, which I prefer. But you could argue math is an even more virgin degree, but I'm generalizing here. It's not all of them, but they tend to be antisocial, weird, uncalibrated, and you know, they tend to struggle the most with women, right? Maybe because their brains are so logical, and like people in STEM tend to have this problem. With women, you kind of have to go with the flow, and like Chad doesn't give a fuck, right? And most Chads are just not in CS, bro, I'm sorry. So yeah, computer science majors, they tend to, you know, stick together. They tend to be a very introverted bunch, which is fine. Like, I'm not hating on it. If you really love coding and stuff, more power to you. But how is it going to affect your dating life? More than likely in a negative way, especially because of the nature of the job. Like, when you're in CS and you become a software engineer, you have to make like 150K to be seen as an equally worthy partner in a woman's eyes as the guy who's like a firefighter who makes 60K, because the firefighter is like cool, right? He's out there doing a cool masculine job. CS, where you're kind of sitting and typing on a computer all day, that's not very attractive to a lot of women. And I'm not gonna lie, dude, these types of guys tend to get cooked the hardest by chicks. So I'm generalizing here. If you're a CS major, I'm not talking about you specifically, but if you got offended, I probably am. But you know, I'm probably gonna have to put this at bad foundation. If you want to change your dating life around, just don't be like most CS majors and try to mimic the cool guys like the business majors and shit. Next up, we have League of Legends players. Yeah, this is even more terrible. Let's be honest, dude. This is even more disastrous than being a CS major, because, you know, if you're a CS guy, you could just be the guy who gets the job done and then you're out, right? League of Legends players, most of them are playing that game for like 10 hours a day, bro, because League is a game that you have to grind. I don't know too much about it, but I know it's not a game for the weak. Most League of Legends players, there's a reputation among them that they're virgins and they have no social experience and they can't get girls. I think that stereotype comes from somewhere, right? It's not like invented. So don't hate me if you're a League player. You know, if you want to keep playing, do your thing, but I'm just saying it affects your dating life. Next up, watching anime. Yeah, this one's really personal to me. I'm a huge anime fan. I've watched Naruto, Bleach, Dragon Ball, Death Note, Classroom of the Elite, Code Geass, Attack on Titan, pretty much most animes you could name. And the problem with anime is there's just this correlation between guys who watch it and guys who tend to be a little bit more on the simpy side, who tend to be a little bit more on the, you know, OF subscriber side, and who tend to generally be unattractive and not the best with women, dude. You know, I am generalizing here. There are guys who watch anime who still kill it out there, but if you're like an anime obsessed guy, there's like this weird introvert culture surrounding anime, like this East Asian culture, which is fine. Like, I'm not hating on it. I love anime. I grew up watching it. But at the same time, dude, you just kind of have to like take the anime part of you out when you're talking to girls. Now, if you meet a girl who loves anime too, hey, that's something you have in common, right? But I'm saying for the majority of chicks, the guys who watch anime, there's just something off about them. So I'm probably gonna have to put this at bad foundation. Next, we have being blackpilled. Yeah, this is average foundation. Like, being blackpilled doesn't really affect how attractive you are to women. It's like either you're good looking or you're not. But let's be honest here, people who are blackpilled tend to be on the less attractive side, because Chads are just not going to take the black pill, dude. They don't need to. They can actually afford to somewhat live a blue pill reality because of their looks, because of the way they interact with women. They're socially calibrated. Most black pillars are not the best socially because I mean, don't you guys think socializing is cope? Being black-pilled can be a double-edged sword because if you take it with the right knowledge and intention to improve the aspects of your life that will get you results, then I would actually put it a little bit higher. But most guys kind of take it as an excuse to be defeatist and like not do anything and just say cope in everyone's comment section and glaze Chad. So next up we have growing up getting lots of attention from women. This is a very rock solid foundation. If you grew up and you were naturally, getting attention from girls and girls wanted you, that early phase of your life is crucial to developing your confidence with women later on. Because think about it, who struggles the most with women in their 20s and their 30s? It's the guys who didn't really have that much experience growing up. They never kissed a girl in school. They were virgins until a very late age, and that's fine. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but I'm saying most of the time it's the guys who had experience growing up. They had the reassurance, their confidence was reinforced by women that, okay, I am attractive and I can get girls. And that's a very powerful thing. When you have evidence that you can look back on that you're attractive and that you can get girls, it really sets you up for the future of your dating life. I'm not saying it's completely over if you didn't get this. You're just gonna have to work harder than the guys who naturally got it. Next, we have being an overthinker. Yeah, this is personal to me as well. A big problem I had with women, guys, is I just overthought way too much, right? I'd be there overanalyzing, what should I say next? What's the optimal move? The Chads who are retarded always beat the guys who are just kind of over analytical and always trying to say the right thing. You have to shut your brain off with women. If you're an overthinker, you're probably on the more intelligent side, you're probably on the more analytical side, and that's not what women are looking for. What they're looking for is an emotional experience. They want you to make them feel stuff. And chances are the guy talking about rocket science and Newton's third law, he's not gonna make her feel anything. It's the guy who's like, yo, what's up, dude? Oh shit, for real? Like, the guys who just don't think before they talk? Those guys are always more attractive to women. That kind of caveman energy, those guys do the best with chicks. So my best advice to guys who are overthinkers, when you're around women, try to sort of reduce yourself to their vibe. They're probably going to be on a more, oh my god, like, you just kind of have to not think, okay? Turn your brain off. And I know there's going to be people who say something like, but the girl I would want is intelligent and is able to match my intellect. If you want to be able to overthink in front of a girl, I'm not saying that you're never going to find a girl. It's just that you're going to have to work a lot harder, and these chicks tend to be a lot more rare. Next, the lover boy. Yeah, similar to Disney, usually these two go hand in hand. If you're a guy who like gets emotionally attached to women too easily and you wear your heart on your sleeve and you just can't resist being this lover boy romantic guy, you're gonna learn the hard way. And even if you don't learn, like, these guys get hurt the most with women. These guys, I'm not saying that they don't get women. They do get women. It's just that they can't keep them because women don't really reward emotional vulnerability and lover boy energy. They kind of reward nonchalant, careless, Chad energy, which is like, I don't really give a fuck, if you broke up. And I'm not saying Chads can't really be lover boys. They can, but those guys also end up getting hurt, right? So I'm only looking out for you when I say tone down the lover boy energy a notch. Next up, growing up playing sports. Yeah, this is a very rock solid foundation. Sports teach men how to be competitive, and that's something that so many guys have lost these days. If you play sports, you're probably more aggressive, you're probably more assertive, and you're probably more socially calibrated because you know how to work with a team, you have friends in the team, you guys have a common objective together. Sports are just absolutely great, and let's not act like there wasn't a hierarchy in high school where the athletes and the guys who played sports tended to get the most girls, and the nerds and like the kind of average guys pretty much were lucky if they got one. And you guys would be shocked to learn that this dynamic isn't only in high school, it extends to the real world as well. So the guys who grew up playing sports, that energy tends to carry over into their future, and they generally tend to have better dating lives. Now, of course, it depends on the sport, it depends on, if women watch you play it and stuff, but if you played sports as a kid growing up, I would say you're in a very good position. If you didn't, it's not an absolute deal breaker, but I'm just saying it is a plus. Next, we have being a corn addict. Yeah, this is a terrible foundation. If you're addicted to corn and you're busting nuts every day, you're not going to want to leave your house. That's going to make you more socially isolated, and you're probably going to end up playing more League of Legends. So the biological urge we have to go out and talk to women is super low after you bust a nut. Like, have you guys ever busted and you're like, dude, I don't even want to talk to chicks. Like, I just want to stay home and play video games all day. So if you want to increase your drive and your passion to go out and get the thing naturally instead of just watching corn, then You have to abstain from it. Next, we have watching Twitch. Yeah, like, dude, the guys who are on Twitch chat watching like these liberal, because everyone on Twitch is a, like kind of a liberal soy jack. So if you're in chat, like watching these guys call girls and like do a bunch of stuff, I just immediately assume you're a loser. Like, we really have to step away from this live streaming culture because it's just turned a lot of men into these simpy cucks. And I guarantee you there's a big correlation between Twitch and simps. Like, if someone did a study, I would pay to see a peer-reviewed study on the relationship between Twitch and like the amount of simping that has increased over the years. So I'm gonna put Twitch at terrible foundation. Next up, we have being righteous. So if you're a righteous guy, chances are you're not going to appeal to the majority of women. And this isn't an excuse. Like, if I put this somewhere low, don't use this as an excuse to start being a degenerate and start sinning if it's against your values. But I'm saying, from an objective perspective, what do guys who get women tend to do? They tend to drink, they tend to go to clubs, they tend to have a lot of tattoos. And if you're like this righteous guy who's like all about God, majority of women are gonna find you boring because women are attracted to sin. Like, that's what turns them on, guys who sin. Women are attracted to guys who sin and guys who kind of are bad, right? Being bad, it turns them on. And if you're a righteous guy, they're going to find you boring and they're going to be turned off by you. This is why, if you're this kind of person, you have to find a girl who matches that energy and who's also righteous and doesn't do the things that most girls in the West do. So either move to Afghanistan or get very, very lucky. We're going to put this at terrible foundation. Next up, playing video games. Yeah, this is average. There's nothing wrong with playing Call of Duty after a gym session for like a few hours. If you get addicted and turn into the League of Legends guy, then it's terrible. But most guys who play video games know how to balance it, right? I'm not one of these self-improvement gurus who's like 100% against video games or anything. Dude, if you want to hop on for like an hour or two, I don't give a fuck. Like, I'm 21. Next up, we have being bullied in school. So unfortunately, this is a terrible foundation because the guys who are bullied lack a lot of confidence, they lack a lot of social skills, and they feel like they're not a part of the group. And that feeling that you're not a part of the group will extend to women. Most guys who are bullied tend to seek their validation. They tend to not be confident in what they do. They tend to be less assertive, shy, held back. And, you know, these are things that you're going to have to work towards changing if you're this guy. Like, I'm not a psychologist, unfortunately. I'm not like a therapist, so I can't give you practical advice on how to get over the mental block of being bullied. I'm sure there's great people out there you can listen to. But for me to sit here and act like it doesn't have an effect on your dating life, I would be the biggest capper on earth. Next, we have growing up with only brothers. Yeah, this is going straight to average because if you grew up with brothers, it doesn't really affect your dating life. However, guys who grew up with sisters, you guys tend to have a much more clear perspective of female nature because you see it every single day. The guys who grew up with brothers, they kind of have to experience it in the outside world. But also the trade-off is that guys who grew up with brothers tend to be more masculine. Next, we have being assertive. Yeah, this is rock solid foundation because guys who are assertive turn women on, right? You're not a pushover. You stand up for what you believe in. You don't give a fuck what she thinks. Those guys tend to be less socially anxious. They tend to be funnier and they just tend to give off this aura of like, I don't really care. Next, we have growing up with a single mother. The problem with growing up with a single parent household, especially with a single mom, is that the mother energy is extremely overprotective and they tend to coddle their sons a lot, right? Not all mothers are like this, but you know, I have to generalize. I can't speak for every single case and every single exception. Mothers tend to be overprotective. They tend to want to protect their kid and keep him in the nest. And the mother's love is very tight, but it's also really suffocating. It can hug you, but if you let it hug you too hard, it might end up killing you. Guys who grew up with single mothers tend to pedestalize women. They tend to stay in their comfort zone. They tend to lack a lot of masculinity traits that women find attractive. Of course, you can work through this. You're not defined by your condition of like living in a single parent household, but it's gonna take work. You're gonna have a harder time than the guys who grew up in two parent households. I grew up with divorced parents, but I was also lucky to have my dad in my life. Some of you guys aren't, so you're going to have to navigate that. Next, we have being a nerd, not to be confused with being intelligent. The nerds are the fact checkers, the guys who talk like, well, actually, like, you know, those kinds of guys. Yeah, they don't do that good with women, bro. It's terrible foundation. There's a reason why back in high school, middle school, they weren't known for getting the most girls. It's just that they turn women off. They give off try-hard energy, and they're not as socially calibrated and chill as like the athletes and the sort of dumber guys. Next up, we have being skinny. Some of you guys might think it's terrible or bad, but I have to put this at average foundation because how many Chads do you guys know? They're like 6'4", they have the best facial features. they're skinny as fuck. You can tell this guy's never gone to the gym in his life, and he's still getting hotter girls than the guy who's out here fucking gym maxing and taking like testosterone supplements and shit. This is why I say like being muscular is overrated. Now, this is not an excuse for you to not hit the gym. If you're like skinny and you're good looking, going to the gym is one of the best things you can do for your mental health, for your discipline, and for your overall well-being. But to sit here and act like going to the gym is this bread and butter for getting women is absolute cap, bro. I've seen guys who are skinny, who don't really have that much muscle mass, and they still bag hotter girls in the fucking gym cell. But if you're a guy who's skinny and you don't get girls, going to the gym is going to help you get more. So it's kind of like one of those things where it matters to some people, but it doesn't matter to others. Anyways, I didn't really mean to put this picture there. It was an accident. So it's the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.